Welcome to PowerUp podcast, the podcast that seeks to empower and dismantle, giving us the power and confidence to question, deconstruct, rebuild, and expand in life. I'm your host, Amma Rouge, voiceover and multidisciplinary artist, well-being advocate, food and book geek with over 14 years of movement-centered experience.
I am your host, Ella Mesma, artist, choreographer, yogi and coach with a passion for alchemy, creativity, transformation and workplace wellness.
We recognise that we can't dismantle and empower or be empowered without first learning ourselves, diving deeper to unlearn the harmful, restrictive and unprogressive. It's an ongoing practice and journey for us all, which is why we created this podcast.
Our show features guests doing the work to enlighten, deconstruct and power up in their own magical ways.
We're going to be having conversations around the power of healing, transformation, well-being and creativity, and how they feed our personal and collective evolution, how they help us power up. We are back with another wonderful episode in our yoga and activism series. And today we are joined by the badass, phenomenal Dianne Bondy. Welcome to the show, Dianne.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with y'all.
We've been having the best conversations before jumping onto this recording, and we're already just living our best lives, aren't we, Belle?
Yes, we're activated.
and numerous times of like, that should have been recorded. That was so good.
Yeah, so much of that already.
Right.
Dianne's pronouns are she, her. Dianne is an author, speaker, activist, and yogi. Self-love is a revolutionary act, and Dianne Bondy is a social justice activist, author, accessible yoga teacher, and the leader of the Yoga for All movement. Her inclusive approach to yoga empowers anyone to practice, regardless of their shape, size, ethnicity, or level of ability.
Yeah.
In it, Dianne is revolutionising yoga by educating yoga instructors around the world on how to make their classes welcoming for all kinds of practitioners. Change agent in modern yoga, Dianne's commitment to increasing diversity in yoga has been recognised in her work with Pennington's, Gaiam and the Yoga and Body Image Coalition, as well as in speaking engagements at Princeton, Duke, University of Buffalo and UC Berkeley on yoga, race and diversity. Her writing is published in Yoga and Body Image Volume 1, Yoga Renegades and Yes, Yoga Has Curves. You can also find Dianne online at yogaforalltraining.com and yogafореveryone.tv. Master Yoga Teacher Dianne is the author of the international best-selling book Yoga for Everyone, DK Publishing, Penguin Random House, co-author of Yoga Where You Are, and a frequent contributor to Yoga International, DoYou, Yoga Girl, and Omstars. She has been featured in publications such as The Guardian, Huffington Post, Cosmopolitan, Mashable, and People. And we are absolutely gassed to have her on the show and really gassed that you're here to share with our listeners who are like, doing this right now.
Yeah, this is going to be so
Emma,
sweet.
I never know what to do when people are reading my bio. Do I look off into the distance pensive? Do I hold my glasses, with the end in my, I never know what to do with that. It's just so
My other one is like pretend to be drinking so you can hide your face.
Right. Or, I don't know what to do. The drinking part will be new for me.
It always feels a bit strange and kind of disconcerting, doesn't it?
It does.
Also, your bio, oh my goddess, just amazing.
Thank you. I've had an amazing opportunity with yoga, and also I like to, include intentional mindful movement, because I always kind of feel like your yoga is your yoga. So sometimes your yoga might look like walking, as long as this is intentional and we're connecting with our breath and we're following the principles and the spirit of the practice. I think you can weave yoga into anything and everything. And I think it's important that we do, right? Like when we look at the word yoga as unity, when we look at the philosophies of the 8 limbs, this is the way that we can be living a life in community and in connection and in awareness and in consciousness. And that's what I do. I weave that into everything I do. So my yoga practice isn't just an asana practice, which is what most people think yoga is. They only practice about an eighth of the entire practice. My practice of yoga is showing up in the world consistently and consciously. So that's how I practice. And sometimes that gets me into trouble, as we are all well aware.
Just amazing. So I have a question, but like purely just because I'm like, I just want to know, like, how did this journey begin? Where did this?
It started really young for me. I have been on my yoga mat, I'll put that in quotations because it's a journey, since I was 3. So that makes me on my yoga mat for 40. Oh God, for 49 years, I've been on my yoga mat. I had to do some
amazing.
Some quick maths.
That was impressive.
It's okay to feel old, because that's a privilege in and of itself. It's the opportunity to feel old, right? So yeah, my mom taught me yoga when I was about 3 years old. She had an old book. I still have it. I usually pull it out and show it to people. When she was moving into her condo, she's like, I need to downsize. I have too many books. Do you remember this book that we used to practice with? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And if I can find it, I will pull it out. But it's by Richard Hittleman. She got it when she was a student in England. So my mother went from Barbados to England to study nursing. And she bought it when she was a nurse. So the book is published in 1956. And she was in England doing nursing. I think it was like 63 to 67. I can't remember the exact time, but she was in England in the 60s studying nursing. And she got a hold of this book because she was very stressed out as a student. And it had some great breathing techniques, and it had some movement that she could do in her room. So she had that book. And then she brought it with her to Canada. And as a new immigrant from Barbados to England to Canada, she didn't have any support when she was here. She didn't have any family. She had 3 kids under the age of 4. And she had twins and me. And so it was a lot, right? Tough. It was a lot. New country, new culture, and 3 small kids. My dad went off to work, and she was for a long time a stay-at-home mom with us. And so she needed something to manage her emotions, her time, feeling homesick for her friend, for her culture and her family. And so she took up yoga. And as you all know, I have the gift of the gab. And so as a precocious 3-year-old, she had to find a way to make it quiet. So she taught me, how to meditate with a lollipop. So
oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Your mum was super forward thinking.
I think she wanted to be a hippie. She's the generation before the boomers. I'm sure she liked certain things about that culture. Some things she didn't agree with, but a lot of it was really interesting to her.
That's incredible. That's incredible that she was of that generation and reached out for that text and realized, actually, I need a way to transmute all of this, and I need a way to discharge.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yes. I think as a healthcare provider, she saw the value in that, which I think is really interesting, because I find people of that generation are not necessarily into self-care, especially people who are socialized as women during that time. I find that they're very much told that they have to take care of everybody and be all things to all people, and to put their needs on the back burner because everybody's needs are more important. Everybody's rights are more important. So she very much grew up during that time, because my mother has seen all that stuff. She's seen the rise of the women's movement. She saw the civil rights movement in the United States happen. Like, she's lived through all of that. So, she's had a really a coming of age, I would say. And yoga was a big part of what she did. She wasn't public with it because, as we know, our practices can be nuanced. 2 things exist in the same space. So she was, she's very religious, and it didn't align with what, like, it's told by religious folks or people who are scared of it, or people who don't understand it, that it was counter, and, it was counter to what her preacher was talking about, and that it was, not good. So my mother really did it in secret for a bit, and then she didn't care after a while.
I'm so glad she still did it.
Yeah, I'm so glad she still did it as well. And
Right.
I just want to speak a little bit to what you said about that generation often not being the best at taking care of themselves, because, as you said, they've been conditioned to be the person
Yep.
taking care of everyone else, and also often didn't even have the opportunity to even center themselves, or have the capacity to even have the time to slow down, be still, think beyond kind of survival mode. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's so uplifting, and so beautiful to hear the roots of your journey, and just big up your mum, big up Dianne's mum, man.
She was instrumental in setting up that practice for me, and that awareness for me. And, I grew up in an all-white neighborhood. I went to an all-white school. I was the only Black kid in my grade school until my brother and sister showed up. I was one of 13 people in a high school of over 750 kids, and we were the only Black kid. There was 13 of us. Our families were all from the West Indies, all from the Caribbean, from different parts. None of us were from the same island, but island culture. And so we kind of grouped together because we looked the same. We were getting taunted in the same kinds of ways. We were getting excluded in the same kinds of ways. So we found our group, and we hung out like literally as a pack of 13 were kind of roaming the halls, because we didn't have the numbers, and we were dealing with a lot of, oppression and all the things. So it was hard, and it was good to have yoga to kind of fall back on, for me to find peace within myself, because I certainly wasn't finding it at school or in the outer world that seemed determined to make me understand that I wasn't what everybody wanted, or I was less than. And I'm on social media way too much. And I was on Instagram the other day, and I was thinking Black women talk about being the only two Black women at school, and thinking how you were ugly, right? Like, you're just not straight, your skin isn't light, you're never gonna, and thinking you're solely unattractive. And it's not that you're solely unattractive, it's just that you're not white. And coming to that realization,
That's
right?
it.
It's until you go to a place where you're not in the minority, or you're not the only one, then you don't really understand that. And I was always really concerned about that with my children, because they have curly hair and brown skin, and I just don't want them to not want those things. Not those things are cool, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, can you speak a little more into self-love being revolutionary?
So revolutionary. Props to Audre Lorde. She's got the original sentiment and quote around that. So it's kind of like paraphrasing her feeling. We are taught in this society, and it's fully based on capitalism, that we are not good enough. It's always, the first time I heard the term keeping up with the Joneses was probably in kindergarten, that, we're looking at our neighbors, and we're looking at the people around us, and we're trying to compete. And when we're always in this idea that we're competing with everybody around us, we start to internalize this idea that we're never going to be good enough, no matter what we do. Your waist is never going to be small enough. Your skin is never going to be light enough. Your hair is never going to be straight enough. You're never going to be smart enough. Like, you always have to be striving. And that's exhausting and unsustainable So if we can get to a place where we're like, you know what, contentment, Santosha, I am okay right here. The world is telling me something else, and the world has a lot to gain by me hating myself, right? Like, if I hate myself, I'm less likely to step out front and speak up about injustice, right? I'm less likely to participate in education because I don't think I'm smart enough. I'm more likely to want to have a million cosmetic procedures and enhance because I don't look like, God forbid, the Kardashians. But you know what I mean? I won't be able to focus on the things that are really important if I'm distracted and spending my money on things that people tell me is important, which is not at all. So I hate myself and I'm disappointed in myself. Who benefits? Not me, right? And that's a hard lesson to learn, is to be completely okay with where you're at. And it's kind of funny because I work at the gym and I do training at the gym. And I remember saying, I was doing something and I said out loud, God, I hate myself. And it was because it was stupid because I forgot to do something. It wasn't an actual thing, but that's my conditioning after 50 years to default that when my guard is down and when I'm not being conscious is to default. So when I catch myself using that language or going down this rabbit hole of being unhappy with myself, I have to stop and step back when those feelings arise. And that's part of my consciousness training through yoga. Step back and go, okay, why are these feelings surfacing now? Like, what's bothering me in the bigger conversation that I'm now internalizing as some kind of self-hate or lack of self-worth? What did I see? What activated these feelings? And let's go back and unpack that. And when I said, damn, I hate myself, it's because I forgot my shoes or my watch or something stupid like that. I'm like, and I think what I was saying is like, why am I so forgetful? Like, how come you're so forgetful? And I'm like, okay, so I just need to pay more attention. Whenever I leave a room, I need to just look around and make sure I have everything when I leave. Because I'd be so distracted, right? Like,
it is so important to do that pause and that stepping back, and then do that conscious check-in, and then that conscious re-choosing of the words. Like, what did I actually mean when I said that? And then say what you actually meant, just to step away from that conditioning, to try and shed it and unlearn it and implement what you actually mean in a certain and given time.
Yeah. And I just love that that's yoga. It's true. We're doing yoga all the time when we're being conscious and we're being loving and we're practicing that, understanding what's really going on.
And then if somebody says something to me and I take it personally, especially like some ridiculous person on the internet that I don't know, that I don't have a connection to, who comes to my page for my thoughts and my content and isn't paying me for those thoughts and contents, but yet feels the right to insert themselves in my narrative and then me take offense to it, then I have to ask myself, why do you care about what this one random person, who you don't even know if they're a real person, for all you know, they could be trolling. Why do you care so much about what they think? And redirect myself. You can't go in the world going, I don't care what anybody thinks, because we all know that that's not true. But we do have to care about what the people who we love and respect and are in community and are in, in the ring with us, to borrow an analogy from Brene Brown, who are actually doing the work with us. That's who we care about their opinion of us. But random people who have not walked a minute in our shoes, who have not looked beyond their own privilege, their own narrative, their own lived experience, why do we give a shit? Why do we care what they think? They have absolutely no bearing on our lives, right? And I always think to myself, the only reason that I would care what they think is I want to change that narrative. I want that, me standing up for my ancestors, how many hundreds of years it is to go now, I cannot forget the sacrifice or the suffering that they made for me to sit here. I am the hope. I always make this quote. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. We know where that comes from. And still I rise, right? Maya Angelou. And that is in my blood. I can't, they're always with me. I can't not advocate for that. I can't.
We are going to be ancestors one day, as Layla Saad always speaks to. So actually, we're also going to be that point of reference for the generations that come after us. So what are we doing to move things along?
Passing the torch, because I did reach back from my ancestors and grab the torch, and I will move it forward. So when people ask us to forget the suffering of thousands of years because, God forbid, somebody grew old and died, I can't do that for you. Like, I can't do that for you. And it's the ultimate in white supremacy to expect me to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, your channel, I feel like it's such an important part of, well, we both fell in love with you via your channel. We're like, we need Dianne to come on this show. You know, it's all of the things. It's revolutionary, it's self-care, it's empowerment. It's like something I've been really thinking about is in recent years, finding the language that I felt in my body, but I didn't know how to express. And, you know, being able to understand those feelings, those like uncomfortable feelings. And like you said, really go, what is this? What's this about? And I think your channel does that for people.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. I work really hard on that channel, and I also make sure that I am lifting up the voices of the people around
Yeah.
me who are also doing the work, because I don't want it to be me and me and me and me and so boring and so self-centering and so not necessary. I want to elevate the voices of others who I respect in the space, who are doing the work and who have informed me,
Yeah.
right? Like, who have informed me of my my place of privilege, B, you know, what I mean to my ancestors. I didn't come to these realizations all by myself. I came to these realizations in community with other folks. I learn from other folks all the time, and it shapes my perspective of the world. And I want to elevate those voices that can help us take a deeper dive into who we are, into what we believe, into why we believe it, into how we show up. Because again, that's the practice, is it not? That's what I think the practice is anyway.
And I would love to ask a little bit about, you know, the inclusive practice that you've created and kind of that journey. How did you get here?
Because I was the blackest, fattest person in yoga class, and I had a yoga teacher who was irritated and annoyed by me, and because I showed up in a space that was clearly not for me, and that made me angry. And I'm going to say we like to demonize anger as a bad feeling, or or shouldn't be angry. You have this, that, and the other thing. Anger,
We were just talking about that yesterday.
right? Anger
Yeah.
can be a very productive emotion. If I did not get angry in that yoga class and felt excluded because A, I'm in a plus size body, and B, I have very brown skin, very dark skin, I wouldn't have thought to myself, there's a better way to teach yoga that makes people feel like they can come back to their bodies and back home. And I have been a movement coach or fitness instructor, whatever, group fitness instructor since 1987. So I've been in the business for a long time. And I know that there's ways to share this practice with people to make them feel included, even if they're not physically able to do some of those postures. There's ways to break things down. There's ways to word things. There's ways to offer opportunities for people to explore their body or to explore the asana. And there's no one way to do anything in this world.
Yes.
So why are we selling like you can only do it this way? Like, I just remember I was in some yoga class, some kind of structured, yoga class. And when I say structured, I mean a lineage of yoga where if I didn't do a headstand this way and not use the wall, then I wasn't doing the practice. I'm like, since when did the whole thing get distilled down to a damn headstand? Like, when did everything come down to this one moment in time? And if I can't bring my knees into my chest and then my feet up into, then I have no right to try this in my body.
Yeah.
Who the hell are you to tell me It's complete and utter nonsense. And don't use the wall because you could fall on the wall and break your neck. Has that ever happened? Maybe. But has anybody ever fallen off a curb walking and smashed their face
Right.
and their neck? Like, honest to God, if you are living, moving in the world, there's a good chance you're going to get injured. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Right.
The amount of time I trip when I'm running and wipe out is embarrassing. Okay, it's embarrassing. The amount of running leggings that have a big hole in the knee for me, it's just...
I love
Does
you.
does that stop me from running? No. I pick myself up, I dust myself off, and I keep going.
Right.
Bloody knees and all. Like, honest to God, if you're moving through the world, you're gonna get hurt, and that's okay. I'm not advocating for that in your yoga class, but I'm also saying there's lots of different ways to do things that can prevent people from getting injured, of course. But we also have to have a little bit of bravery to allow people to explore their bodies in a way that feels good for them. And if they can't do it this way, and if they can do it this way, and it's safe for them to do it that way, why not give them the freedom to explore that in their body? I'm a big fan of every prop all the time. And I've created ways to do the poses that all people want to do. Okay, you want to do it, you're going to try it. Let me help you do it in a way that's safe, that has some support, that can honor the body that you're in. Because I know people want that. And it's okay to want that.
Yeah.
It's okay to want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with the practice. I've been doing this a long time, and I've met a lot of yoga teachers where I'm like, where do you get off?
Yeah.
Like,
why do you think you're better than everyone else? Like,
everybody else, righteous. Like, why? Like, and that's a pure insecurity, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's an insecurity.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I do. I think there's something else going on there that people need to unpack.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be sitting in a place where you're not creating harm in the practice, then maybe step back and come back to your practice and work it out before you sit in front of a class as the teacher. Because that is so harmful.
Yes.
Right? And
there's a massive responsibility as the teacher.
It's huge. The seat of the teacher is huge. And the very first tenet I learned in my first 200-hour teacher training from my teacher, Linda Makowski, hey, Linda, was ahimsa. That was the very first thing I learned. And the way she taught it is, if you stand in the mirror and look at yourself, and you start cutting up all the things that society tells you is wrong with your body, because where else would we get these ideas from, right? That's ahimsa, right? Like, I have yet to meet a 2-year-old who's standing in the mirror saying they hate their thighs. Like, they're just in love with their bodies. This is a learned thing that happens over time, right?
Yeah.
And we need to shut down those voices. If we create a strong narrative for ourselves, I'm not saying we're not going to be impacted by those things, but I also think we're going to be less impacted by those things, because we'll be able to have what we learn in yoga, discernment. We'll be able to have discernment, right? We'll be like, okay, what's the message, and why is it important to me, or why does it not apply to me at all?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Spot on. And this, listeners, is why Dianne Bondy is on the show.
Right.
It's exactly this.
Yes.
Exactly this.
This is PowerUp in all its facets.
Yeah, it's so much bigger than all of us. And the older I get, the less I'm here for the bullshit. That's all I'm saying. Like, the older I get, I'm like, maybe when I was 20, I believed that. Or maybe when I was 30, I believed that. Or hell, maybe even when I was 40, I believed that. But now I'm like, I want to be as happy as I can possibly be. And picking up other people's expectations or opinions of me is not going to get me there. So I'm a big fan of the quote that I heard years and years ago, that other people's opinions of me are none of my business. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I don't need to live up to it. I don't need to feed into it. You can keep it pushing, right? Take your opinion and keep it pushing. I don't want you. I don't need you. Just keep it pushing, right? Like, it's just, I am not going to be diminished by this. Like, I might have been earlier on in life. And then I think to myself, who benefits from this? Not me.
Yeah. Not the people I love, not the people around me, not the people I reach. Yeah.
Right? Society at large, right? It's been interesting because I've been posting a lot of stuff lately, and I'm watching people like disengage from my content. Like I've had a big exodus from my Instagram page, and for a minute I'm like, oh, and then I'm thinking, no, I don't need this. If what I'm saying to you is not resonating, please keep it going. Thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Be blessed and move on. If this
Yes.
content doesn't speak to you, I'm totally okay with that. There are millions of other people out there that you can engage who's going to be with you. And it's always quite interesting when Black folks, brown folks, people of color, people from historically excluded identities and communities say something, in the space, and makes white people feel some kind of way. They disengage, unfollow, and move on instead of doing the work
Right.
about, this person said this, it rubbed me this way. Why do I feel rubbed? Why can't I be sympathetic or compassionate to how they're feeling in the world? How does that affect me? It rubs you the wrong way because you haven't identified your connection to the delusion of white supremacy, right?
Yes.
You have not unpacked
Hang on
shit.
it.
That's why it rubbed you the wrong way. And if my lived experience and me expressing my lived experience, or the lived experience of my ancestors, which is also my lived experience, generational trauma, folks.
Thank you. It's not up for debate. We're not in debate society.
Right.
I'm telling you, and that's what it is.
About it, okay? It's hundreds, if not thousands of years in my DNA.
Yes.
I can't just forget about it.
Yeah.
I can't just move on. And none of us can move on until repair has been made. And repair has definitely not been made. Most of you can't even fucking acknowledge it. So don't even come for me.
Mic bloody drop.
Dun, 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 dun. That's it. I love you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. You can connect to us and our guests via the links in each episode's show notes. Before you go, we invite you to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the goodness to come. And if you enjoyed today, perhaps tell a friend to tell a friend. We are always grateful for you, our listeners, for our fabulous guests, and to everyone who has contributed to and been a part of our journey here.
Our music is by Tomo Carter. Everything else is brought to you by us, the PowerUp Power Team.
I'm Ella Mesma.
I am Amma Rouge, and we are PowerUp Podcast.